So this video lesson is on density. So today we're going to learn about what density is and how we can actually calculate density. So density is defined as the amount of matter or stuff in a particular space or volume. So density is how much of stuff, so how much of matter we have in a very specific amount of space or a very specific volume. Okay, so the formula for density looks like this. So our density is actually equal to our mass divided by our volume. And our mass is usually measured in grams. So the unit for grams is a little g. And our volume can be measured in a couple of different units. So if we are dealing with a solid, then we measure our volume in centimeters cubed. If we are dealing with a liquid, we measure the volume in milliliters. And so that means that density can have a couple of different units. So it could be grams per milliliter or grams per centimeter cubed, depending on whether we're dealing with the density of a solid or the density of a liquid. Now, an easy way to remember the formula for density. So our formula for density, D is equal to M over V. And so an easy way to remember that is that we love density. And so when you look at a heart and you draw a line through it, it looks like we have an M on the top and a V on the bottom. Okay, and so that's how we come up with our formula for density. We have to love density, and so we end up with an M over a V. So mass divided by our volume. Okay, so we are going to try a couple of practice questions with density. So in the first practice question, I think we're going to try 4 practice questions. So we have a piece of gold, and we are told that the mass is 75 grams, and the volume of this piece of gold is 3.9 centimeters cubed. And we want to try and calculate the density. So we're going to write our formula. So our density is mass divided by volume. And so our density will be our mass, which is 75 grams, divided by our volume, which is 3.9 centimeters cubed. And so we're going to do that math, and we're going to get 19.2. And our unit here will be grams per centimeter cubed. And so that will be our density. That's our final answer there. So that piece of gold that had a mass of 75 grams and a volume of 3.9 centimeters cubed will have a density of 19.2 grams per centimeter cubed. So we just divided the mass divided by the volume. Okay, our second practice question. We are going to have a look at a substance, and we've got the density of our substance. So our substance has a density of 3 grams per milliliter, and we've also got a volume of 100 milliliters. And in this case, we are trying to find the mass of this substance. So again, we're going to use our density formula, but we are going to have to rearrange this formula. So our density will be our mass divided by our volume, but we can rearrange this formula using our math skills. And we want to rearrange so that we can solve for the M. So we are trying to rearrange so that I can get my M all by itself. And so to do that, I'm going to multiply my density times my volume. So density times my volume will be equal to my mass. And so then I get this formula that my mass is density times volume. So I'm going to take my density of 3 grams per milliliter. And I'm going to multiply it by my 100 milliliter volume. So I'm going to get 300 grams as my unit here. This is mass, and so that's going to be my final answer. In order to calculate mass, we're going to take our density times our volume. Okay, let's try another one. So this is practice question number 3. And so in this practice question, we are given the density of 0.5 grams per centimeter cubed. And we are given that we're using a mass of 20 grams. And in this case, we are looking for the volume. So we're going to, again, use our density equation. Only this time, we are going to have to rearrange this equation so that we can solve for the volume. So it's going to be a little bit more complicated to rearrange. So when we rearrange here, we're going to have density times our volume will be equal to our mass. But we don't want mass by itself, we want volume by itself, which means we then have to divide both sides by density. So our volume is going to become our mass divided by our density. And we're just rearranging using our algebra rules. Okay, so if we have something on one side of the equation where it's divided, on the other side it's going to be multiplied. And if we have something multiplied on one side of the equation, if we move it to the other side, it's going to be divided. And so this is the formula we're going to use, is our volume will be equal to our mass divided by our density. So we're going to use our mass divided by our density. So our mass here was 20 grams, and our density was 0.5 grams per centimeter cubed. So we're going to do that division, and we're going to end up with 40 centimeters cubed as our volume. And so that's our final answer for our volume. Okay, so we're going to try one more. So our last practice question here, practice question number 4. And in this one, we are going to actually try and find the density again. We are given a volume of 950 milliliters, and we are given a mass of 95 grams. Okay, so here we're calculating our density, which will be mass divided by volume. So we're going to plug in our mass is 95 grams, and our volume is 950 milliliters. And so we're going to do our division there. We get 0.1 grams per milliliter. So that's our final answer here for our density. Okay. So let's just talk about the 3 different rearrangements of formulas. So the first formula for density, of course, is when we're trying to calculate density, we want to do our mass divided by our volume. If we are looking for mass, then we do density times volume. And if we are looking for volume, we're going to do mass divided by density. And so these are the 3 different rearrangements of our density formula that you should be able to create. Okay, so I would suggest that you memorize the density is mass divided by volume, the first one, and then use algebra to create the next 2. You don't have to memorize the other 2. You just need to be able to use your algebra to rearrange the formula to create the other 2 formulas. Or if you choose, you could memorize all 3, and that would be fine. All right, so that's the end of this video lesson on